are only 6 places cheaper than Walmart. The other 24, more expensive. Can you guess which was the most expensive?
I mean, I'm thinking of like the Whole Foods, the Erewhons, the Publix.
Basically, the base of my diet is going to be sardines. You ended up eating about 1,000 sardines in a month. The average person sits around 5% omega-3 index. I was at 16%, which is like a marine mammal. Like it's kind of like
dolphin.
a dolphin.
You were basically
yeah, so I was
dolphin.
closer to dolphin blood than human blood.
Life is Costco. Life is chaos. It's ugly lighting, warehouse shelving on pallets. That's the day-to-day of our life.
The obstacle was social.
Because you smelled like not quite sardines, but some sort of funk.
If you're going to be willing to build wealth, it's going to take doing something that is unsexy behind the scenes. You can eat the 150 hot dog and die an early death, or you can get the Kirkland protein shakes and live to be 100 like Michael Easter. The choice is yours.
That is the greatest answer that maybe has ever happened to a question on 2%. Welcome to 2%. I am your host, Michael Easter. Today on 2%, we're going to be talking about food. Now, food is the foundation of health. And we're going to talk about food in 2 ways that the marketing economy has totally overlooked. They've written them off as either disgusting or way too chaotic. And I think that is a massive miss for your health. So first, we're going to talk to Nick Norwitz. Nick got his PhD from Oxford and then his MD from Harvard. And he recently ate a single food for an entire month that most people would think is completely disgusting. But along the way, some really strange and quite miraculous things happened to his health. He literally started registering dolphin-level omega-3s in his blood. Yes, dolphin-level omega-3s. So he's going to tell us why this food is arguably the most overlooked but powerful food that you can eat. And then after that, we're going to bring on George Kamel, and we're going to be talking to him about the greatest grocery store in the world. George is one of the brightest minds on debt and financial freedom, and he's also an expert with the Ramsey Network. He dispenses a lot of wonderful advice on getting out of debt and living a freer life. Food also happens to be one of the biggest expenses for Americans. Food prices have actually risen 20% since 2022, and I'm sure you can feel this in your pocket. So how do you actually save money on food? Enter this grocery store we're going to talk about. A recent analysis found that it is by far the cheapest grocery store in America, and it is packed with tons of healthy options. So we're going to talk about how do you manage to eat healthy in a world where a lot of people think that healthy food is inherently going to be more expensive. It does not have to be the case. So you're going to leave this episode with a lot of tactics to eat better and save money along the way. Let's get into it. All right, now we're bringing on Dr. Nick Norwitz. Nick got his PhD from Oxford. He got his MD from Harvard Medical School, and then he left the hospital, went on to found the Substack Stay Curious Metabolism, where his goal is to make metabolic health mainstream again. He's also got a good YouTube channel, and the man is all about doing radical experiments to find lessons that can help you. And he just did a very radical experiment. And that's that he ate only sardines for an entire month. So we're going to learn what happened from that. There were some good things that happened to his health, but there are also some strange and bad things that happened in his relationship, of all things. And you will learn why. Maybe you should be eating a little more fish and why omega-3 supplements may not give you all the benefits of just eating real fish. So let's talk to Nick right now. Yeah, and I will note that on your video screen right now, it says Nick Norwitz, MD, PhD, PGP. Were your parents physicians too?
Both MD PhDs.
Dude.
Yeah.
If I ever have an incident, I'm calling the Norwitz family.
The funny thing about that, how I got to where I got to was through, a personal health journey where I had access to all the resources, and conventional medicine still failed me. Like 2 MD, PhD parents, financially well off, and then the conventional system still lets you fall through the cracks to some extent. So it got me thinking about the care we actually provide, and circuitous route through my PhD, then MD, brought me to being a little bit of a thorn in the side of convention, but that's what it is.
But there's a good reason for it.
Yeah, I mean, I thought you could change the system from within.
Yeah.
Which is why I went the path I did, and I realized that's probably not an efficacious way to do it. But that's a whole other kettle of fish, pardon the pun.
Yeah, there you go. Well, on that note, you ready to talk sardines?
I'm ready to talk sardines.
All right. So you embarked on a journey of epic culinary proportions. You did a sardine fast. What made you attempt that in the first place?
Well, at heart, I'm a giant nerd. And I love exploring the natural world through reading, learning externally, but also trying things out on myself. And I also find it, a great tool for education. When I started publicly, I would just get on, say, like my phone or a YouTube video and explain the new cell paper. And, people responded to that. But I found when you could wrap it around a human narrative to some extent and draw lessons out of that and use that as the hook and lever, people just really got into it.
Well, I think it also incentivizes them to do something too. I mean, I'll tell you in my own work, I could have written a book like The Comfort Crisis from the comfort of home and just read a bunch of studies and interpreted them. That book would have sucked, dude, because it wouldn't have taught me what that actually means and given people some sort of reason to keep turning the pages that had a human element.
There's also the matter of like, well, when we ask science, like what is science? And I think people think of science as this institution, that it's very formalized, done by people with training, goes through some rigorous peer review process, which I will tell you now is not a meritocracy. But like, that's not what science is. What science is something that is deeply intrinsically human, that we're born with, which is we are curious by nature. We want to explore the natural world and, hypothesis test, make observations, and evolve our model. And you can apply that. It doesn't need to be a randomized controlled trial. You can apply that in your own N=1 journey. It's more of an ethos of how you walk through life.
Yeah.
So, over the years through my PhD in medical school, I did a lot of like coaching. And I always knew someone would be successful, not when they lost like a certain number of pounds on the scale or something, but when you see that light go off in their eye, they're like, oh, this isn't a chore. Like, this is cool. My body's a lab and I get to experiment and iterate and observe and just like treat your body like an ongoing experiment. And I like to live like that. And the sardine diet was something that I tried because it was kind of like going around in the zeitgeist. I was not the first person to talk about it. I know probably people Dom D'Agostino, like big sardine guy. I think he maybe came up with it. I heard about it first when he was talking with Tim Ferriss.
Yeah, and he's a researcher at University of Florida or University in Florida, right?
I think University of Southern Florida, but brilliant guy. And I'm just like, I wonder what would happen. And when I do things, I like to go quite hard. So I'm like, for a month, basically the base of my diet is going to be sardines. You ended up eating about 1,000 sardines in a month. And
so let me ask you a question. Did you eat anything other than sardines for a month?
I did.
Okay.
Because my goal wasn't to like lose weight, and eating just sardines, I would have just, I don't have much excess fat to lose. So I would have just atrophied fat. So originally I was eating just sardines for like 3 days. I'm like, this isn't going to be sustainable. So then I was adding in a little bit of electrolytes and just added fat. So mostly olive oil and MCT oil, but just supplemental fats to get a little bit of extra energy in. But other than that, sardines for like my main protein source.
You ate 1,000 in a month?
About 1,000. Yeah. I didn't count them one by one, but if you go through the cans and amount per can, then yes, about 1,000 sardines.
How many cans is that a day?
Like 8-ish.
8-ish. So I think that there is I'll call it a misconception, that sardines are gross. And I think that is because they used to be very gross. Like 50 years ago, there was this kind of canned slimy thing. But I will say, I feel like there has been a complete renaissance in the world of small fish that are in tins. So which were you eating?
I'll be clear, no affiliation, but I was eating Fishwife. Particularly the one I liked was in extra virgin olive oil with preserved lemon. They are more expensive, but for an experiment like this, having something that I actually look forward to eating made a difference, like you said. I mean, I like sardines just like plain in brine. They're fine. But after a while, it gets a little bit boring. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to sardine splurge. And those are particularly tasty. I drained the oil, but wasn't like particularly, like I'm not too worried about a little bit of the quote, like oxidation of the oil in the can. So that wasn't a particular concern. But those are the sardines I ate.
What prompted, I guess like what question did you have going into this? And why did you want to do this? Why sardines?
There are different types of experiments. Some you go in with a hypothesis. So for example, another stunt I did was 720 eggs in a month, which is 24 eggs per day. That's how I came to that number. That I did have a hypothesis. That I'm like, I don't think these eggs are going to increase my cholesterol, having to do with how our bodies regulate cholesterol. So there I had an explicit hypothesis that I was testing. This was more exploratory. I'm just like, I wonder what would happen. People are reporting like great energy, this, that, and the other. What am I going to notice that's going to be particularly interesting, if anything? Am I going to hate it? Am I going to love it? I'm going to feel energized, tired, what have you. So it was exploratory, capture and report, and then try to explain phenomenon that were particularly surprising.
What was surprising along the way?
Two big things.
Okay.
The first was the smell. And I don't mean like sardines stink, smell in my breath. And I have to credit, and I apologize to her, my girlfriend, because she was the one that noticed the smell, but it was like an aura. Like it got into my skin and it was giving off like volatiles. She would walk in, I'm like, I haven't eaten yet today. She would get back from like a night shift. I haven't eaten, I've showered, I've brushed my teeth until my gums are bleeding, but my skin was just giving off some like volatiles.
You just smelled like a sardine.
It wasn't exactly like a sardine. It was potentially something else. I have a maybe explanation for what was going on there, and we can delve into the science of it, but that was the first thing. The other thing I noticed was being cold resistant. So I live in Boston. I did this experiment during the winter, and it gets cold. It gets like blizzardy, and I just completely lost that feeling of feeling cold. Like I could go out. We had one really bad blizzard, and we got several feet of snow, and I could go out. Like frigid blasts felt like nothing.
What do you think was happening there?
So this is where things get really
and
interesting.
let me also, we've talked about this, but I need to say that you are a hardcore scientist. You have a PhD, you have an MD, you think, you analyze. So this is not you just sort of, I'm going to make some stuff up and riffing. This is like you've looked into this and you got a good theory behind this.
Yeah, 100%. In fact, if people want the paper that had it come together for me, if people want to go read it, it came out in Cell, which is one of the top basic science journals in the world. This year, it's entitled Identification of OR5V1-OLFR110 as an oxylipin receptor and anti-obesity target. And I could talk about all the methodology and bore you. I won't do that. I'll kind of try to keep it high level, but there are like multiple top tier science journals behind the hypotheses, and I'll admit speculation of me trying to explain what went on in my body. Omega-3s. Sardines we know are rich in omega-3s, and we know those like are heart healthy and brain healthy. The question is why? These aren't just like nutrients, energy carrying molecules. They are precursors to hormones in the body. And I don't mean that lightly. I mean like your, say, brown fat, which is a thermogenic type of fat. It's actually derived from muscle precursor cells, not fat cells. And then there's like an intermediate called beige fat, but can turn omega-3s. Like EPA or DHA, which is the long chain omega-3s, into various hormones. One is called 12-HEPE. So a boring name, very interesting hormone. It actually, in humans, has an inverse relationship with body mass index.
So it has some influence on your weight status, more or less, and body fat.
Well, we don't, in humans, know the directionality. So basically, if you're leaner, you tend to have higher levels of this 12-HEPE, and if you have more obesity, it's lower.
Okay.
So then we enter this new, like, okay, we have a problem, or possibilities here. Maybe lean people are more efficient at making it from omega-3, or maybe it's actually causing leanness. Maybe it is promoting weight loss and thermogenesis. It turns out that is actually one of its primary functions, this 12-HEPE, which it is made in brown fat from omega-3, and then it acts on brown fat to increase thermogenesis and acts in muscles to help suck up glucose. So it improves glucose disposal, increases heat production, and in animals, because you can do more controlled animal experiments, it does prevent weight gain, increase energy expenditure. So there's a biologically plausible basis for, say, how an omega-3 eaten from a heavy omega-3 diet could increase levels of this hormone, which eating more omega-3 does increase levels in humans, but thereby increase your energy expenditure.
Just calorie burn, more or less.
More or less calorie burn.
Okay.
Now, an astute listener might be saying, well, if this is true, wouldn't science have figured it out, right? It seems the kind of thing is like this seems like it should have been solved. Two responses to that. One of the most interesting things about going through like formal academic training My PhD was at Oxford. My MD was at Harvard. And throughout, you're just humbled by how little we know. In fact, to just circle back to that egg experiment, the reason I did it is because it wasn't until 2024 that we identified the hormone that explains why our bodies don't increase our blood cholesterol when we eat cholesterol. The hormone's called cholecin, and it was identified in 2024. And when I read that, I was in medical school. I'm like, really? We're figuring this out now? So the amount of things we don't know would astonish people, and that's one of the reasons I love science.
Yeah. Did you feel like it was one of those things, the longer you were there, the less you realize that we know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like any field of expertise. And anybody listening, whatever their profession is, I'm sure you have this phenomenon where you're like, people don't understand how difficult my job is. That is true, like across the board. Be you a journalist, be you a scientist, be you a doctor, be you a mechanic, whatever. Generally, the more you learn about a topic, the more you're aware of how much there is to learn. It's called the Dunning-Kruger effect. People can look it up. But typically, people who have the least knowledge tend to overestimate their knowledge. And then you become humbled when you realize how complex these things are, including human biology and medicine. But to get back on the sardine thing, another thing that I had going for me was people don't get to my blood omega-3 levels very typically. In fact, I did an interview with the professor and a leading researcher in omega-3 biosciences, Professor William Harris. He invented the omega-3 index. And he's like, yeah, I don't see people ever with your blood omega-3 levels, which there are different metrics, but on his test, I more than maxed out the scale. The average person sits around 5% omega-3 index. 8% is considered optimal. The scale goes to 12%. I was at 16%, which is like a marine mammal. It's kind of like a dolphin.
You were basically
yeah. So I was closer to dolphin blood than human blood.
How did it feel to have dolphin blood?
Well, it's kind of scary. In the age of AI, people were doing like I don't know. I guess it's not a deep fake of me, but like me saying I'm turning into a dolphin and having me morph into a dolphin. It was so creepy.
Awesome.
That aside, let's put the puzzle together here, because the plot twist I mentioned that paper in Cell. There were a few papers, but there's like I think an epic plot twist that at least blew my mind, and hopefully I'm going to communicate it in a way that is interesting. So I have this working model. Okay, I ate a ton of omega-3s and got my blood omega-3 levels super, super high, higher than most people do. And maybe my 12 HEPE levels, which are derived from these omega-3s, are increasing my body's heat production, burning off energy. I'm pretty lean at baseline, but my body fat dropped like below 7% by the end of the experiment. So there's a problem, though, which is we know kind of what 12 HEPE does. Again, increase energy expenditure and thermogenesis, increase glucose disposal of muscles, but we don't know its receptor.
Okay.
And this is often a problem where like there's an orphan receptor. It just you don't really know how it exists or like what it's binding to and what the mechanism is. So that paper I mentioned is where they discovered the receptor for the 12 HEPE. And what it is pretty mind-blowing. It's a smell receptor. And I want to deliver this with its full impact because it's so weird that, like, why would a molecule who we understand its function to be acting on muscles to pull glucose out of the blood so your muscles can burn it as energy, and pulling glucose and activating brown fat so you can produce heat production, why would it be a canonical smell receptor? It's OLFR110. I remember that as oily fish reeks 110.
Awesome.
It's not what it actually stands for, but when you go through med school, you become like mnemonic minded. So how I remember it. But long story short, and this is one of those moments where I just had to sit back and be like, wow, biology is cool, is evolution has done an amazing thing in that it tends to repurpose the same item, let's say, the same unit for multiple different functions. We see this again and again and again, like shark jaw bones migrating and become inner ear bones. Or consider the fact we are arguably the most complex animal. Obviously, like I don't believe there's like a pinnacle of evolution per se, adaptability. However, we're incredibly complex. Our genomes are comparatively tiny. Like there are fleas with more genes than us. We have 20,000 genes. There are worms with more genes than us. So what's going on? It's that our body is really good at splicing things and repurposing things. And with this smell receptor, what they ended up finding is It's not just in the olfactory epithelium. It is also in the liver. It's also in brown fat. It's also in the brain. And maybe I'm stretching a little bit here, but in kind of tying together the story of the things I experienced in my life and in my body, say the stink and the superpower of cold resistance, if we say these are bona fide responses, things that are truly happening to me biologically, this presents a really interesting model because it kind of couples, let's say, the superpower of cold resistance to a price. So as I was like having this click in my mind, I was thinking about things like Ariel and the Little Mermaid, where you have to have this like fatal exchange. You can like get legs, but you have to give away your voice. And it seems very arbitrary, but these things happen in biology and medicine all the time, where you pull one thread and something else moves. The sardine experiment's kind of an extreme example of that, but like take any intervention, take a common medication, statins or whatever. Like they'll have good things and they'll have bad things. Yeah. And those things often couple just because of how integrated our biology is. And I think that is something to like really marinate on and reflect on because it's such a basic truth, but one that I think, honestly, medicine often overlooks. You'll be very like myopic and keyhole focused with any given intervention. Oh, we have a number, we want to change it, we're going to give this intervention without thinking systemically about the body.
Yeah, and then another number changes somewhere else, and we're like, why did that happen? And then that's where the interesting questions
or you don't even look at that other number.
Yeah, or
like there are stereotypical rivalries in hospitals that you find out when you go through medical training, like cardiology and nephrology. They're always like doing an intervention on a patient and pissing off the other one because they're each thinking about their own organ system. Like, oh, we care about the heart, we care about the kidney, rather than thinking about the human as an integrated system.
Yeah. So let's talk about sardines in general for the average person. Sort of they're like, if you were to flip over the baseball card of sardines and look at their sort of nutritional statistics, why might they be a good food for the average person, even if they're not going to eat 1,000 in a month? Like, let's walk through what are some of their benefits.
I mean, they're about the most nutritionally dense food you can get when you have them with skin and bone. And that kind of makes sense because you're eating the whole organism. You're getting like the calcium from the bones, you're getting the omega-3, you're getting tons of micronutrients, even those that won't like show up on a label.
And they have multiples more omega-3s than tuna, right? And multiples more than even salmon. And people kind of put salmon on the pinnacle of like, this is what you eat for omega-3s, but sardines actually have more.
Yeah, sardines are very dense in omega-3. I think sardines, mackerel, and salmon as well. Less so tuna or like lean fish like cod and halibut. You don't get a ton from those. So, in terms of convenient omega-3s, you really can't beat sardines. Amounts vary, but it's pretty packed. The only thing that really tops it, I would say, other than supplements, is probably cod livers. You can buy canned cod liver. They're pretty delicious, but they are like about as rich in omega-3 as you can get. Dom's also a fan.
Where would you buy those? Is that like you got to go to the specific website on the dark
or
web?
Online. It's like Icelandic cod liver. You're not going to find it at like a Whole Foods or something.
It's not on the Walmart shelf. Also,
not that I'm aware of.
Magnesium and iron, correct? And magnesium is something a lot of people lack.
Yeah. I don't know what the exact quantity of magnesium is in sardines, but I suspect they have it. I know they have iron. Which are all like important nutrients and electrolytes for the body. Actually, if you'll indulge me in a little bit of a sidebar,
I love a good sidebar. Mind-blowing. Let's go.
Okay, so here's my pitch. I'm gonna have a letter come out about it on my Substack. Yeah. But basically, the title is going to be: you can legitimately slow aging for 6.2 cents per day.
6.2 cents. I'm in.
6.2 cents. Slow aging for 6.2 cents.
Table. Now tell me how.
And this is including human data and a 3.33 year monkey study.
Okay.
So there's this thing called ferro aging. So the connection is, you mentioned iron. Iron is good. You want iron. But the funny thing happens with aging where your cells and organs start to hoard iron. You actually see this over time if you go like lung, heart, liver, brain in humans. Iron levels start to accumulate as your cells hoard it. And this can set off a domino chain of effects where basically you'll get extra damaging something called oxidative stress in cells. Scientists identify, and let me actually, as I'm talking, get the name of the paper. And these are all like top science journals just came out. This one, it's entitled Vitamin C Inhibits ACSL4 to Alleviate Ferroaging in Primates. So basically, let me simplify it. Iron accumulates in tissue, and then it activates this enzyme called ACSL4. I remember it as aging catalyst switch. The authors actually refer to it as like an aging switch. And that leads to damage in your cells and aging. So what they did was they screened for compounds, like blindly screened, hey, is there anything we know that actually binds to this linchpin of iron-induced aging, ferroaging, this ACSL4? And they tested 100 compounds, including like 7 different statins, various medications, but the one that was most effective was vitamin C.
Interesting.
So they ended up doing various experiments, but including giving monkeys, crab-eating monkeys who were already old, vitamin C for I think it was 40 months, and then looking at their markers of aging in their cells, biological clocks, even like MRIs of the brain. There was slowed biological aging across all clocks, including various biomarkers in cells and tissues. There was even slowed shrinkage of the prefrontal cortex from vitamin C. Now, the 6.2 cents comes from, I looked at the dose because people are always like, oh, animal studies, they always hyperdose. It was 30 milligrams per kilogram. So for a 70 kilogram human, that's 2.1 grams per day of vitamin C. If you buy it in bulk on Amazon, you do the math, 6.2 cents per day.
6.2 cents. Bam.
So
take your vitamin C as you age.
Take your vitamin C, I guess. So sardines don't have a lot of vitamin C, but I guess you could take it with something with vitamin C. But this is one of those things where I know I'm getting on my nerd high horse, but medicine lags so far behind, like what we call basic science, but like understanding biology at the frontier. And when you can start to implement that understanding of biology at the frontier, I think you can bio-optimize far, far beyond what modern medicine thinks you can. Now, can I prove to you beyond a shadow of a doubt in a 30-year human study that 2.1 grams of vitamin C is going to slow brain shrinkage? No, but that's because we just haven't done the study. It doesn't mean there's not a biological effect. So, what's the cost of taking 2 grams of vitamin C if you're interested? So, sorry for that sidebar, but there's always something in my mind I'm excited about.
We'll flow out of the sidebar. One thing that I like is that is practical, too.
Yeah, easy.
And I will say, too, with sardines, that is a practical food in the sense that it can sit on your shelf for like a year or two and just sit there nice. It's going to be preserved. You can eat it any time. You can throw it in a bag when you're traveling. When I'm backpacking, actually, I'll take sardines because I'm like, oh yeah, it's going to be fine in my bag. And I just rip that open. Got proteins, got all these different vitamins and minerals. The other thing is that I think people might hear, oh, you're eating a ton of this fish in cans. Your mercury level is supposed to have been crazy. But that wasn't the case because sardines are relatively low in mercury, right?
Yeah, sardines are very low in mercury. Just to kind of give you a sense of perspective, one serving of swordfish, and you can find these tables online, is the equivalent to 77 servings of sardines. So you could eat sardines twice per day for a month, and it would be the amount of mercury you get if you just have like one slab of swordfish. So it really is about the type of fish you eat, not just eating more fish.
And that's because the heavy metals move up the food chain, correct? So basically, long story short, the bigger the fish, the more smaller fish it eats, the more mercury is going to accumulate in its body. And then when you eat that, you're the next step up the food chain, more or less.
Exactly. Yep. And another concern people have is plastics, particularly BPA. This is one of the number one comments. What about the BPA? What about look for a BPA?
It supposedly lines the cans. Is that the thinking?
Yeah, but you can just look for BPA-free tins.
Yeah,
they'll be labeled, or you go online. So that's an easy solve. It's a real problem, I think, for some tins of sardines. But you can also just find the BPA-free tins. So the brand I used, again, Fishwife. I have no affiliation. Yeah, cool. BPA-free.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. Could a person just take omega-3 supplements?
You wouldn't get the full spectrum of nutrition found in sardines, the things we were mentioning about. Obviously, there's not any protein in that omega-3 supplement. And you're also going to miss out on, not really sidebar, but background important information. If you look at the literature, there's a very, very consistent association between higher fish intake and improved health outcomes, particularly brain health. There isn't as consistent an association with omega-3 supplementation. Now, there's several reasons why that might be, and the literature is not perfect. It's complicated. But one of the reasons is there's other things in fish that is beyond omega-3 that are neuroprotective. So, for example, there are neuroprotective forms of selenium. Selenium, 34 on the periodic table, is incredibly interesting and has very important functions in the brain. Once it gets into the brain, it turns into a whole class of proteins called selenoproteins. And actually, it's been shown it can increase neurogenesis, the birth of new neurons. Like, it's legitimately interesting. And you get various forms of selenium from eating fish.
So it's like by trying to just distill the omega-3s, which, by the way, they basically do by grinding up tiny fish. And in the process, you also lose about half the fish. You're getting this one thing, but you're missing all these other things that could be happening by eating the entire fish that we're just not entirely aware of. In some cases, we're aware.
Which is always the way it
others
is with
we're not.
nutrition.
Totally.
It's not to say don't supplement omega-3s. I still supplement omega-3s for other reasons. I have a genetic predisposition to Alzheimer's disease. So I'm like very liberal about my omega-3 intake, probably like still 5-ish grams per day. But that's me personally. So if you don't like sardines, I would say getting at least 1.5 grams of long-chain omega-3, so EPA and DHA combined somehow, either through diet or for fatty fish. And if you happen to know you're at like, you have an ApoE4 allele, then at least 2 grams per day. It would be, if I were to give practical thresholds, those would be the thresholds.
What are your thoughts on omega-3s and heart health? Because I feel like that gets brought up a lot.
Good for heart health. The literature is a little bit messy. They've shown high dose concentrated EPA is good for hypertriglyceridemia and heart health. I think it's the nature of the studies, the background population on which they're given, and the doses given where there may be negative results. But at a high level, like the breadth of impacts omega-3s have on the body is profound. Like they get turned into hormones, like I mentioned. But they also get incorporated into cell membranes in the nervous system. They concentrate in the brainstem. They get into cardiac cell membranes. And they change things like heart rate variability, which is a biomarker associated with like risk of heart attack or even death from cardiovascular disease after a heart attack. So this is one of those areas of science where I can talk about the basic science and make a personal confident prediction that is absolutely essential to your cardiovascular health. But if somebody were to go to the literature and say, hey, do we have the definitive randomized control trial saying that this dose of EPA is going to do exactly this much in this person for, say, risk of a heart attack? We don't.
Yeah.
But when it comes to really whole body health, but especially brain health and heart health, I think omega-3s are non-negotiable.
Yeah, what's interesting is for my book, Scarcity Brain, I traveled into the Bolivian jungle and I hung out with this tribe called the Chimane tribe. There was a paper that came out that found they had the lowest rates of cardiovascular disease in the world. They basically don't die of heart attacks. They also don't seem to get dementia. And one of the foundations of their diet is fish because they're living on all these feeder rivers of the Amazon. So they eat fish, like that's their main protein source. Now, of course, there's a lot of other things going around on. They're very active. They're eating a lot of single ingredient foods. But I do think that that's suggestive that, eat foods that are ingredients rather than have ingredients. And you should probably eat fish. And the thing is Americans do not eat that much fish. I think only 5% of our protein comes from fish. Like we just way undereat it.
5% almost, I'd be impressed if it was 5%. That's higher than I would have expected, but I agree. No, people don't like fish, especially sardines. So day one, you start this thing. And then you go 30 days. Did you have highs, lows, emotional breakdowns, or like what happened to you in the process and where was your headspace and also body space here along the way? I enjoyed it. Of all the experiments I've done, and I've done a lot, it was not unpleasurable personally. The obstacle was social.
Because you smelled like not quite sardines, but some sort of funk.
Living with my girlfriend, and it really affected her. I know I'm like laughing, but I'm also being dead genuine.
Yeah.
And this is something that has been like, if you go through the comment section of some of my sardines videos, people are like, you're going to cause a divorce. I love this, but I also stink. Like it caused marital problems. And I apologize to everybody who experienced that as a function of me. But there is something about it. Maybe it's a 12-HUPE. As we know now, the receptor is a smell receptor. But there's something about yeah, sardines that it can change the way you smell. And just to be clear, like that is very biologically plausible. If you think about like conditions that affect our health, they do change the way we give off volatiles. Like if you have cancer, dogs can smell cancer because it changes your biology, so you give off volatiles. Or, you know, if you have the pandemic virus, I'm going to avoid saying trigger words, but yeah, dogs can smell that out too because it changes your biology. So yes, eating a ton of sardines is going to change my biology to have me give off certain volatiles that some people might be more sensitive to than others. I'll say I couldn't smell myself. Maybe I just habituated, but that was the low throughout. And by about 2 weeks in, it was like, you need to stop this experiment. I'm like, I can't. I already started. Sorry.
Is she making you sleep on the couch at this point? Are you like banished to another room?
Yeah, no, there's a whole apologies series afterwards. But
what did you make it up to her in any way?
I don't know if I want to go there.
Your hesitation tells me that like you really need to build this back and do something very kind to be like, I'm sorry I smelled so funky for a month. Okay, so Fishwife was your go-to. You're eating 1,000 over the course of the month.
Mm-hmm.
What happened after?
After I finished?
Yeah. Like, did you have something totally different? Because you're like, finally, I don't have to eat sardines. Or was it like, were you sad to leave this experiment?
Kind of. It was, I enjoyed it. I didn't find it unpleasurable. I didn't mind eating the same thing every day for a month. And it was one of those things where I actually, when I finished it, this was in 2025, and I was just left with questions. I was like, what's going on with the scent thing? What's going on with the cold thing? And then I just had my eye on the scientific literature saying, is there anything that can explain it? So that paper I mentioned, the first one, that came out in 2026. I finished this in 2025. It was just like, oh, that helped me explain what was going on then. So mostly I just left. I'm like, well, that was interesting. On to the next thing.
Yeah, and you mentioned your body fat dropped significantly. Do you think that was just because you were eating less overall, or was there something unique happening there?
I suspect there was something unique. In the spectrum of opinions on body composition and weight management, I'm probably more to the extreme of I really think calories have next to no utility. Mm-hmm. And I think there was something going on unique and biological. And just to be clear, like there are even human controlled trials showing you can change things like macro distribution and increase caloric output by as much as 600 calories without increasing your... Like, the human body is incredibly modifiable. So when you change your diet to that extreme extent, it is very possible that you could get like a thermogenic advantage. And you can do things like redistribute energy in your body. I think one thing we were talking about offline, but like, you know, people talking all about peptides now. There are peptides that can selectively reduce specific types of fat, like visceral fat, without touching other fat. So it is not a matter of like everything flows up and flows down at the same time. You can redistribute. You can engineer your body to get certain energetic, quote unquote, advantages. It's very plausible. And I think what was happening to me was beyond just like a change in quote unquote calorie balance. In fact, my overall calorie intake didn't decrease. That's why I was supplementing with the added fat.
Yeah, so that makes sense. What do you think the takeaway for the average person is? Because I will tell you, I think that my marriage would end in divorce should I try this. So like, what is the light day-to-day? Is there a version of this, or is the takeaway to just sort of like, hey, maybe you should eat more fish, try sardines, it might do some good things for you?
I think a few levels. You know, I did it to explore. I found some interesting things in myself. I think at the highest possible level, it's a matter of what we eat really, really affects our biologies in ways that I don't even comprehend sometimes. And just to approach your life with that ethos, that experiment of like, I'm going to do something with intentionality. I'm going to do something positive for myself with intentionality. I'm going to observe what happens and treat it literally like an experiment, and then do the next one. And immerse in that being a positive experience that you're having. It does not need to be sardines. It can be literally anything. Yeah. So I would say high level is just like treating your body like an experiment can be kind of fun. You don't have to go to the extremes. It's a fun teaching hook, but you can leave it at that if you want. And then if you want to talk about sardines specifically, I mean, one of the reasons I chose sardines is because like they're a food I can just live on. They are more nutritionally dense than basically anything I can think of, and more nutritionally complete. So they're good food. Like you said, they're a convenient food. Like if I'm traveling, just like pack some sardines, I know I have good nutrition for like a few days.
Totally.
So yeah.
And I think you're absolutely spot on about experimentation. So there has been sort of a push online where it's like all diets are terrible and never try these fad diets because everyone fails. My personal experience with that, and having heard from a lot of readers, is that, look, I tried this diet for whatever it was, 8 weeks. Am I still on it? No. But I learned 1 or 2 things that I have taken with me from then on that have helped me live better. And I would not have learned those things had I not tried this diet. I treated it as an experiment. I got this little piece of advice or this way I changed my habits or my eating, and I improved from that. And so it's like, and then it's this trying and just picking up these little tidbits as you move on. And like, that's kind of how people end up in a good spot over time.
That is very, very well said. I think that's how, like, you know, your lifestyle should be treated. Your circumstances change, your needs change. If somebody like gets pregnant, their diet is going to change because their biology and circumstance change. That happens to all of us, not the pregnancy thing, but circumstances changing all the time. So just being open to exploring different diets, you know, I think, and then different things work for different people. Yeah. Some of these quote unquote extreme fad diets are very life-saving for some people, and they don't fit other people. That's fine.
Yeah, totally. How many sardines are you eating now?
Probably have like on average a 10 a day.
Oh, still daily.
Yeah, it's going to be like at like I eat 2 meals a day, but like my first meal is going to be like either I like taking like smoked salmon and wrapping it around some cheese, like some manchego, and doing a little olive oil. So that, or like, you know, just some sardines and olive oil. It's convenient. The funny thing is, I really love to cook, but for other people, for myself, I'm dead lazy. So I'm happy to make like a fancy dinner for my girlfriend, and then I'm like, and I'll fry some eggs. Whatever, if we're eating different things. So I'm pretty basic when it comes to, you know, what satisfies me. And sardines are satisfying. They're convenient. I always have them on hand. And so if I'm like running back from the gym, need to get to my next thing, eat a few sardines and move on with your day.
Okay, final question. You're banished to an island. You can only bring 3 foods. What are you bringing and why?
Sardines, eggs. I feel like I've covered my nutritional bases pretty much with those. So now I have a little bit of a free card with the last one based on like enjoyment. Roquefort cheese. I love.
Wow.
That's my favorite cheese in the world. It's the one food that I don't have an off button for.
Awesome.
So that's going to be my 3. And I don't think I left out any major nutrients that I wouldn't survive without. So I got essential fats. I got calcium. I'll be out on a tropical island, so I'm going to get vitamin D from the sun.
I love it, man. Well, thanks for coming on, dude. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks for having me. Love it.
All right.
Cheers.
All right, now we're going to bring on George Kamel. George is a friend. He also happens to be one of the top finance minds in the country. Now, when people start to eat healthy, or they want to eat healthy, they think, oh, it's going to cost so much more money to eat healthy food. That is not true. It does not have to be the case. In fact, George and I have a mutual love for a very specific grocery store that can save you a ton of money on healthy food and actually make eating healthy cheaper than the alternative unhealthy options. So we're going to talk about that. And by the way, please just let me know that neither of us are sponsored by this particular grocery store. So let's get into it. George Kamel, thanks for coming on 2%.
It's an honor. Thanks for having me.
All right. Do you know off the top of your head how much the average American household spends on groceries?
Oh boy. Average per month?
Per month. Yep.
I'm going to go $700.
It's a little less. And I will also say I learned this from you. So this is a stat you forgot. It's about $500.
It's probably old. We need to update it.
It's probably with inflation, it's probably more.
I feel like every year it goes up by $100.
Yeah. Well, that brings me to my next point. Since 2022, can you guess how much the price of groceries has increased on average?
Okay, 4 years. That's kind of the post-pandemic universe. I'm going to go 30%.
You're close. 20%.
See, I wanted to overshoot. That way I look like I'm in touch.
Still a lot, though, because I feel like when you talk to people in the trenches of daily life, and you talk to a ton of people who are thinking about money, trying to get out of debt, I feel like food is the area where people go, The world is more expensive now. I was just at this restaurant and this meal used to be $15. Now it's $20, $25. Or I was just at the grocery store. My bill is astronomical. What do you actually hear from people?
You're exactly right. If you look at $500, well, 20% increase, now it's $600. And when people are already paycheck to paycheck, now they're in the red. Now they're going, well, I guess I got to use my credit card or buy now, pay later to get by, which is the worst solution. Instead of going, all right, I need to adjust my life, my budget, my expenses, my income in order to sustain the life. Or I need to compromise and go, all right, we need to shave down this budget and shop at a different place like Aldi instead of Whole Foods. And for a lot of people who are more conscious, that's a harder decision to make. Because if there's one thing you're not going to sacrifice, it's, the gym membership, the workout routine, the clean eating. And so that means you're going to really feel that even more when it comes to those higher priced items.
Absolutely, which is a wonderful segue into today's topic, which is something that is near and dear to both of our hearts, Costco. So
just the word makes me feel good.
I know, right? It's just like, I just feel calmer. I feel happier immediately when I hear it.
Which is funny because Costco is one of the most chaotic places to actually be.
It really is.
I thrive in the chaos.
Yeah, it's like, it's a good chaos. It's a metaphor for life. Like you can find peace in chaos. You just got to spend more time in Costco.
I do go into a Zen mode.
Yes.
Where I cannot be bothered, even with a child, running around my cart in circles.
I love it. So the time peg and the big news around Costco is Consumer Reports. They just did a study, compared 31 different supermarkets. And what they did is they compared them all to Walmart for the same basket of items. Can you guess which came out on top, given today's topic?
It's got to be Costco.
It's got to be Costco. 21%.
Because I'm thinking per unit.
Yes, for the same.
Per ounce.
For the same foods, 21.4% cheaper than Walmart, which I feel like Walmart, people are like, oh, that's the cheapest place by far. No, Costco's beating them by 21%. And there were only six other places that were cheaper than Walmart. The other 24, more expensive. Can you guess which was the most expensive?
I'm thinking of the Whole Foods, the Erewhons, the Publix.
Erewhon was not in the analysis. I think it would have come out on number one, but it was Whole Foods.
Too niche, maybe.
Too niche. By 40% more expensive than Walmart. 40.
Which one is?
Whole Foods.
Wow. I'm shocked. I do feel like the Amazonification of Whole Foods made it feel more reasonable, especially with their, 365 brand.
Yeah.
And I usually shop what's on sale there, so I don't feel the pinch as much. But I do the majority of my shopping at Costco, maybe an Aldi, Trader Joe's thrown in there for the little stuff.
Yeah.
And then the occasional Whole Foods Publix run.
Yeah, when you want some niche, nice product, you're feeling like...
We got Kroger here too. I don't know if that's in Vegas, but...
We do have Kroger.
That's an okay option. That's kind of like in between your Walmart and your Publix.
Yeah, it was, I think, 5 or 6% more expensive than Walmart, so that's not crazy. But with this Costco, so one, are you surprised by this? And then two, for people who think that Costco is this mad place of too many people, giant tubs of mayonnaise, giant things of cheese balls, what are they missing about Costco, especially from your financial mind?
Well, the running joke is that you go in for the $5 rotisserie, you leave spending $300 on stuff you didn't need. So it is sort of like the mecca of consumerism and just like we're going to go big and we're going to go home with it. And so I think that's sort of partially what's caused this idea that Costco is for, the middle class people and even the upper class people who they still want the deal. But it is expensive. It's hard to leave there with 7 items under $100. They need to do a game show like that, like a supermarket sweep, to see if anybody can actually spend less than $100.
How do you navigate Costco, given what you just said? And I'm gonna tell you one of the magic tricks they use to get you to leave with more than the rotisserie chicken after. The question is effectively, like you said, you go in for the $5 rotisserie chicken. You're like, that's my goal. Maybe have 1 or 2 other items, and then you walk around and you end up with $200-$300 in stuff.
Oh, yes. So I just spent my birthday at Costco. My wife said, what do you want to do? I got 2 of my best guy friends, and I said, let's go to Costco. We each have to buy one thing that we did not plan on buying, that we did not know existed. And we had the best time. We all had a blast doing that. And I have no hobbies. That was fun for me. But you're right in that Costco is a maze. Nothing is labeled. They move stuff around all the time. I found the stat that 25% of the inventory rotates. So you never know what's there, and what was there is now not there. And good luck finding an employee to badger to be like, hey, do you know where the Noka pouches are for my toddler? And they're going to walk you around the store, hopefully steer you in the right direction, or find out it's not there anymore. So that scavenger hunt is what keeps you moving, keeps you throwing stuff in your cart. And then what keeps me buying is the return policy. Because I know, even if I spend $500 on an item I didn't know existed 5 minutes ago, I can return it 3 years later if it no longer works for me or if I didn't like it. That's the Costco madness.
What's your most absurd Costco return?
Oh, man. The vacuum, I think, was uncomfortable for my wife. It was at least 3 or 4 years old, and it was just not sucking anymore, which means, and so I brought it back, and it was to the point where they went, hey, man, this really isn't in the spirit of the policy. And I looked at the policy, and it just said, like, satisfaction guaranteed, bring it back anytime for a full refund. I went, I don't know where there's no spiritual element here. This is a transaction. And so they returned it. They were still nice enough to do that. But I have very little shame when it comes to a Costco return because I have full confidence that they're going to make it right. And they know I'm going to spend so much more than anything I could, return to that store. And what happens? You return the vacuum and you go buy the latest and greatest Dyson and you restart the process.
Exactly. So what I think is interesting about Costco's sort of products pop up, they leave, things are kind of limited time. That almost mimics these sort of gambling mechanics where you walk in there. If I walk into a Kroger, I know exactly what's going to be there. There's no, what will I find? When I go into Costco, there's, what will I find?
You want to go into random aisles.
And you see something and you're like, wow, never seen that before. That's really interesting. Also, is it going to be there next time that I'm there? And I do think that is one little trick they use that leads scarcity leads people to make.
Someone should write a book about the brain and scarcity. Have you thought about this?
What would you call it?
I mean, I think scarcity brain, that's kind of phoning it in, but I think that's a good start.
That's a good idea.
I would read it.
Maybe I'll get on that. What is your go-tos at Costco, go-to purchases?
I go for the Kirkland brand when I can. And I just was actually watching a video about the Kirkland brand. I mean, it's an $84 billion brand on its own, which is crazy.
That's insane.
It's just the Kirkland signature generic brand products because they're known for their such high quality. They're known for partnering with Duracell to make the Kirkland battery or Starbucks to actually make their Kirkland coffee. So because of that, there's immense trust. And I'm going to say 9.5 times out of 10, the product is good, if not better, than the competitor. Now, the one that really did me dirty was their cold brew coffee in a can. I'm a cold brew coffee guy, and it just did not hit. And if I could work with them to craft a better cold brew, Costco, hit me up. But the go-tos for me, of course, you got your staples, the paper towels, the toilet paper, the spring water, the LaCroix or Waterloos. And then you've got the staples for the kids. So, think the pouches, the egg bites, and then even meats, of getting like a meat in bulk, freezing it, getting like a wild-caught salmon that's individually packaged that's easy for me to heat. Things that are sort of like, I know I can throw a meal together within 10 or 15 minutes in one pot. Those are the things I go for Costco. Even like a kind of an instant rice pack kind of thing, a basmati.
Yeah.
That excites me to go, all right, 90 seconds. And I know with a whining toddler, I can still put dinner on the table and everyone's happy.
That to me is, especially for people who are interested in their health, that to me is the magic of Costco, is that we often think that health food and eating healthy is going to be so much more expensive. It's going to be more time consuming. But when you walk into a Costco, especially if you're looking for those Kirkland signature brands, because to your point, they're partnering with the best brands and then they're figuring out, okay, how do we get you to make this thing cheaper? And I think they also have a rule that it has to be 1% better than their brand. I don't know how they measure that, but I like that.
I like that. So I mean, even that as a goal is great.
It's wonderful. And so if you can go find those staples, like examples I like is their Kirkland peanut butter. That is made by Adams.
That's a good one.
So if you go into Costco, you can get 2 of these giant things of what is basically Adam's peanut butter for $10.
I mean, it's like 2 ingredients, right? It's just like peanuts, salt.
That's it. And at the grocery store, you would get a single one that is half the size for probably $6 or $7. So we're talking like, this is insanely cheaper. And peanut butter is something that lasts. The frozen salmon, this is for the meatheads out there. Kirkland Signature just released ready-to-drink protein drinks. So these come in at like $1 a whack. I think it comes in a pack of 18. If
you can't beat that.
If you went to a gas station or the grocery store, those are like $4 a whack. So when people say, "Oh, I need to drink more protein," but then they go to the grocery store and they see that, they're like, $4 for that? That's like a lot for one single drink. But if you go to Costco, all of a sudden it becomes, okay, I can actually figure this health food thing out. I just have to buy in bulk. I have to look for the right brands. And it just becomes like the ultimate path to the basket for eating healthier.
Yeah. Well, and when things are on sale. So what I'll do is one of the only things I enjoy getting in the mail now is the Costco catalog of what's coming up.
Amazing.
And I mean, I'll like circle that thing like I'm a kid at Christmas with the Sears catalog. I'm just excited to go in there. And it's always like a week ahead, so you can't even go in the day of and get those items. You got to wait till the sale hits. But that really
Christmas.
Helps me know I'm getting a good deal.
Yeah, just like Christmas. You're waiting for these items to come in.
I'm stoked. And especially items that I buy a lot. And what's cool is I think it's within 30 days, if you had bought that item and now it's on sale, you can just go up to the customer service desk and pull up your receipt through the computer and say, "Hey, this is on sale now. I'd like the price difference."
Really?
And so I've done that multiple times, and there's been 4 items, and you just get $20, and I go, "Sweet, more Costco money."
That's awesome. Now I got to ask, when you did your birthday celebration at Costco, you and your 2 friends, what did you guys buy?
So one of them bought pool floats because he was about to open his pool for the summer. And he found these great little floats, got 2 of them. My other friend likes to grill, and he found like hardwood charcoal in like a 38-pound bag.
Awesome.
That was very exciting. And then I go for the snacks. So I like a dark chocolate. I want some clean ingredients. I want something interesting, some maybe fruit-forward things like a mango, chocolate-covered mango. You had me sold there. So I like to peruse the snack aisle, especially the healthier, quote-unquote. All right, don't come at me, health nerds. I know none of this is healthy, but healthy-ish snacks.
Health halo.
Yeah. Like the sour candies that aren't trash. There's like, it's only 3 grams of sugar in the whole bag. Things like that, like a Smart Sweet. Better Sour is one I found that I fell in love with. So I'm a snack guy. So you have me at the sweets.
Yeah. So leading to that, I will say one area that people can get in trouble at Costco is if you're buying the really junky stuff in bulk, because you go in and you go, "Oh, well, this bag of Doritos is, the size of a Volvo and it's $4. And the small one, the normal size one at the grocery store is $7. So you go, "Well, why wouldn't I buy this?" Well, now the problem is that you're going to eat the whole thing anyways. So one tip I would give people is if you go into Costco, do not buy junk food, because you're just going to end up eating it all.
Eating more junk food.
Like you almost want a tax on your junk food. You want to be like, "I'm only buying junk food at the normal store. Yes, it's going to be more expensive, but I have to pay for that." So now it's like I earn it. And that disincentivizes.
You feel it more.
Yeah, you absolutely
That's true.
Feel it more.
Well, and I will say Costco, what's nice is that right next to the Doritos, they're going to have the Late July brand or the Siete brand. And so they have the better for you option at the ready. And so if you are more conscious, you at least have the option versus, Sam's Club, I have a membership there too. And this is not a knock on Sam's Club, but you walk in there and it's sort of like junk food forward.
Yeah.
Now, the experience can be better because there's less people. I can do scan and go. The technology's there. I've got a pickup order at Sam's later. I can just pull up my car and they'll load it up and I go. So there's things that I give Sam's a point for, but I'd much rather hang out in a Costco.
Yeah. And you're going to end up with better stuff. I think you're totally right that Sam's Club is probably equally good on the prices, but way more junk. It seems like Costco has really tapped into the psyche of moms who are concerned about their kids' health and feeding their family healthy food. And I love them for that.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a great trend to be happening, and Costco serving those customers well. and they keep coming back. I mean, they have a 90% plus rate of retention of people re-upping their membership, which is insane. And so when you think about that, there's $4.8 billion in revenue just from memberships. If nobody ever stepped foot into a Costco, they're still making $5 billion.
How does Costco make money?
Well, memberships make up over half of their net income now, their operating income. And then the other half is through the products, the services. I mean, think about all the other stuff Costco does with the pharmacy, the travel, the gas. And then their actual products, they focus on 11 to 13% in margin on the products, which is really slim if you are in business. You know, those are pretty slim margins. So they're going, how do we charge as little as possible for the products to keep you coming back so that you feel like, man, I'm taking Costco to the cleaners. There's so much value here.
Yeah.
And even with the Kirkland products, what's interesting is that becomes a price anchor for the competitor brands. So they have to shift their pricing when Costco comes out with the generic brand, because now your Duracell batteries can't be $7 more than the Kirkland batteries. No one's going to buy Duracell anymore. So Duracell has to lower their price to come down to what Costco is charging. So it actually creates a really beautiful sort of healthy capitalism in the market with all this competition.
Do you know what the margins are at the average grocery store, for context?
I'm not sure. I think it would probably be different for every store, but my guess is it's probably closer to 20, 30%.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So maybe it could be triple that of a Costco, which makes sense because Costco, they're the only ones who charge a membership fee. And so they can get away with that because they're making the bulk of their money. And again, you could just go to the gas station at Costco. It's 10 to 20 cents cheaper per gallon on average. Well, the average family, that could be saving them hundreds a year, which pays for the membership. And if you have the executive membership like I do, you're getting 2% cash back. And this is no credit card. This is just using my own money, debit card and cash. I'm getting 2% back, and they write you a check. And lo and behold, if you spend on average $500, $550 a month at Costco, you are making that executive membership fee back.
That's awesome. That's such a good point. How do you think about buying in bulk for people? Because people will be like, well, I don't want to buy that much, or like, what if some of it goes to waste? How do you have people navigate that, especially from a financial perspective?
Well, I think, history will dictate a lot of what you should be buying. So don't get the industrial size kale if you know you're not going to eat that much kale. That's where I go to the smaller grocery stores and go to an Aldi or Trader Joe's and get a smaller package, knowing I just can't eat that much spinach before it's going to wilt and go bad.
Yeah.
Same with fruit and vegetables. I mean, you talk about organic vegetables and fruits. Costco has, pound for pound, the best price, but you're still paying $9 for those organic strawberries. And so you got to think, are we actually going to go through all of this? And if you know your toddler is a monster and will just eat an entire pound of strawberries in a sitting, then it's a great purchase. And so usually you have to go through some mistakes where you realize, man, that really hurt to throw that away when it was only half eaten, because then you are losing money. And so you do have to go in with a plan, with a budget, think about what you're going to do with the food that you buy. That's something I've had to learn the hard way.
Yeah.
Because I just shop with my eyes and my heart. And then I get home and my wife is like, did you get any food that we can eat as a meal? I'm like, well, it's not, what is a meal? We can do a boy dinner tonight. And so that's where you kind of you still have to be thoughtful. But I want to get to a place where I'm financially independent enough to just walk into a Costco, no list, and just buy whatever the heart desires. That's true freedom.
I love that. All right. So regarding financial freedom, walk us through your own story, because I think it's just fascinating.
Yeah. Back in 2013, when I started here at Ramsey as an intern, I was $40,000 in debt between my student loans, my credit cards, and like many people, I didn't know any better growing up. My parents were very middle class. They were immigrants from the Middle East, and they adapted to the American culture quickly. My dad had 16 credit cards with the rotating rewards, and he was playing the game. And so when it came to college, it was just they're like, oh, we'll figure it out. And I thought, wow, they've been saving up. We're really wealthy. Well, that turned into, subsidized loans through FAFSA.
Yeah.
That turned into all these 11 Sally Mae loans I had to pay back, and getting a credit card for the credit score to try to get my credit up, because I was told credit is the most important 3-digit number in your life aside from your weight. So that was the focus. And so I ended up broke, miserable, anxious, frustrated, mad at the world that I was lied to, that I thought if I get a degree, my life's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Someone will hand me a job, hand me a check, and I will be able to pay off any loans that I took out, no problem. And as many people have found out, it's not that simple. And those loans will follow you, and the credit card debt will follow you. And it's really the person in the mirror who had to change, not society. I can't change society, but I can change the one guy. And so following the Ramsey plan and our 7 baby steps, I got out of that debt in 18 months by doing a bunch of side hustles, cutting my expenses down to nothing. And since we're talking about food, I would wait until Lean Cuisines were on sale at Kroger, 5 for $10. Because I knew if I could just eat $2 a day, I could control my budget and know exactly how much I was going to spend. Now, science might study my body after I die to find out what happens when you eat Lean Cuisines for every meal for, a year straight. But it got me out of debt, and it helped kind of create a different version of me, an identity where debt wasn't on the table anymore.
Yeah.
So I cut up my credit card. I haven't had a credit card in 13 years now. I've just been using a debit card, and I became a baby steps millionaire in my early 30s. My wife and I, as we got married, decided we don't want a mortgage forever. Like, we want to have some freedom and flexibility and options in our life. So we decided to get angry at it. And we got rid of the mortgage in our early 30s. As normal W-2 employees, I didn't run a business. I wasn't making a lot of money at the time. We just got really focused. And now I want to yell from the rooftops, if an average George can do it, you can too. Like, you can become debt-free. You can become a millionaire. You can live on your terms, but you got to buck the broken system.
Yeah, how hard?
And so that's why I wrote the book, Breaking Free from Broke, to help people walk through that.
Yeah, and everyone should get that book if you're at all in debt. How hard was that in the short term? Because, I mean, a lot of my work looks at improving your life often takes things that are going to be uncomfortable, difficult in the short term, but then you end up on the other side of that so much better off and more free. So walk us through how that actually felt like. And also, you talk to so many people on the ground. What do you hear from the people that go through the process, and what do they say?
Yeah, that transformation process you're talking about, where it's intense sacrifice for a short time for this long-term gain. I'm not even going to say long-term comfort, because you still have life, but it just feels like everything that was so loud, that was chaos, now just becomes like you just turn down the volume of the noise and the stress of the money problems, because the emergency comes along and you have an emergency fund and you just pay it. And so, yes, it was annoying. It wasn't fun to do that, but it also was an inconvenience instead of a crisis. And so that's what getting control of your money can do. And so for me, I was a young guy, and so I had the time I could have been doing a whole lot of other things that would have been more fun instead of side hustling and, making websites at night and helping people launch a podcast, or I was doing Uber and Lyft.
Awesome.
Last thing I wanted to do was be on Broadway in Nashville at 10 o'clock at night driving people around. But man, when you see that money hit the account and you apply it to the debt, you get a different kind of dopamine rush than making a purchase. And you go, man, I want more of that. Because you get a taste of that freedom. You get a taste of that light at the end of the tunnel, and then you just want to run even faster. And that's what I found with people who become debt-free, and they join us on the stage during the Ramsey show and share their story.
Yeah.
Because they always say, it was so worth it. I would do it all over again, even though it was so hard. And the way we do our plan, it's 18 to 24 months on average to get out of all of your consumer debt.
It's amazing.
And most people will live in mediocrity for 20 years, carrying the debt, carrying the stress, in bad relationships, with marriages that are struggling, all because they want their creature comforts and they don't want to sacrifice for a short term. So I always tell people, do you want 2 or 3 years of hard work for the next 20 or 30 years to have flexibility and options, or the opposite?
Yeah.
Do you want the next 20 or 30 years to be mediocrity because you weren't willing to sacrifice? And I found when the student is ready, the teacher appears. So I can't make you want to get out of debt. And I can't want it more than you can. Just like if you were my personal trainer, you can't want me to be in shape more than I want to be in shape. It's just not going to work.
Right.
And so it frustrates me because I want to help as many people as possible. But I can tell in a phone call on the Ramsey show within 2 minutes if I can help this person or not, or if they're just simply they're not ready for help. They wanted a shortcut. They wanted affirmation. They wanted a bomb instead of me going, hey, this is going to hurt for a little while longer, but we can get you out of this.
Yeah. What I think is interesting, just from a health perspective, is finances are one of the biggest sources of stress in people's life. And if you look at the data on chronic stress and health outcomes, like, it's one of the main drivers of chronic diseases and the things that end up killing us. So for my listeners who are, they're interested in health, it's like, if you can take care of that and your stress levels go down, that is going to improve your life in the long run, health-wise, but also just your mental health day to day. Like, you're not going to be walking around stressed, frazzled. Your relationships will get better. Like, it's really an amazing thing. Where do you find people get most trapped? Like, what's the number one thing that hurts people financially?
The number one thing that hurts people financially is listening to all of the noise and then getting this like indecision, fatigue, analysis paralysis. Hey, man, I could do 90 things now with my investments. I mean, I heard about this thing over here. There's crypto, there's sports betting, there's these prediction markets. I heard my buddy said this is going to take off, or hey, there's a whole life insurance policy that this guy told me about that can actually make me money and I can borrow tax-free. And I found like all of the complexity in life, if you can just get blinders on and say, none of that matters. I mean, if you look at Dave Ramsey, you look at me, we have very simple lives financially when it comes to what we're actually putting our money into. And it is real estate for Dave. He's a real estate guru. I have just my primary home paid off. And then I have mutual funds and index funds. That's it. That is the only thing that I own, the only thing I'm interested in. I'm not looking to get a short-term rental and to do a vending machine business that I saw on TikTok that can make me money. I go, dude, find a job that you enjoy doing or own the job and start your own thing. But don't listen to some goober on TikTok telling you how to make money and to buy his course on, how to launch your own, whatever it is, digital, Amazon, FBA, sell your own products. It's almost so much harder than they made it out to be with so much risk that ends up making them money, not you. And so the traps are so much more important than the actual thing you should do.
Yeah.
Half my job is steering them away from the bad thing and trying to get them to do the unsexy, boring thing, which is, hey, are you even investing in your 401k and getting a match? What about the IRA? And they go, I look like I have 7 eyes when I talk about it. I was talking to an 18-year-old in the street the other day. He was a day trader working part-time at Burger King. And I said, have you ever thought about investing? And he said, I don't know what that is. And I went, oh my gosh, this guy understands prop firms and how to day trade and all the mechanics of that, but he's never heard about a Roth IRA and investing in a mutual fund in order to make money over the long term. And so it always brings me back to the principle of wealth gained hastily will dwindle. Whoever gathers little by little will prosper.
Yeah. And
And that's an old proverb, and it just speaks to the get-rich-quick mentality of a lot of young people who are struggling. I get why they feel that way. They're looking at the boomers, quote-unquote, hoarding all the wealth, going, well, I'll never have that. I'll never own a home. I'll never get ahead. I'll never make what they make, so therefore, I have to find a shortcut.
yeah.
Maybe the sports bet will be it. Maybe the Kalshi prediction will be my ticket out. Even if it's part entertainment, part trying to build wealth, it's just so dangerous and bad for your mental health as it becomes very addictive.
Totally. All right, I want to do a rapid fire. Your takes on some money-centric ideas. First off, all these new prompts for every service that ever lived asking you to tip, like at the coffee shop. What's your take on those?
Here's my take. If I am standing up and I had to wait in a line, I will not tip. And here's the real indicator, and watch this next time you're at the tip screen. They are very normal employees until they go to turn that tip screen around. Watch them compliment you. Watch them ask about how your day is going. And you'll go, oh, this really is a game. They don't care. They don't think my glasses are that cool. They're just hoping that in the nicety of them talking, I will then go, oh, I should probably give them a tip. And so I don't do guilt tipping. I don't think that's generosity. That's an obligation. But I will always tip for a service provided.
Yeah.
So if someone walked over to my table 7 times and, brought me the waters, brought me the food, or if it's a service, they're dropping something off at the house, like a DoorDash or a pizza delivery, 100% you should be tipping those people. They're working their butts off, and they are not making a lot of money. Like they're hustling out there as a 1099 contractor for Uber Eats or DoorDash or Walmart Plus, whatever it is. And they're struggling. Like, these people aren't doing this for fun.
Yeah.
They're doing it because they need the money. And so I love to bless people who are out there hustling. I always respect that. If you're willing to get off your butt and go do something because I didn't want to do it, you deserve a tip.
Yeah. Okay, what's your take on credit cards? You got a controversial one.
Credit cards are the cigarette of the financial world. They've become normalized. We all kind of know it's bad if you use it improperly, but we all think we can outsmart the system and that we're not going to die from it. And so credit cards to me, even if you pay it off perfectly, which that's what I hear all the time. George, I paid off perfectly, never paid a dime in interest. That's always their one line. I go, yeah, but you're probably overspending to the tune of 20% if you had used your own money instead.
Really?
And they go, you can't prove that. I go, you're right, I can't. Bet. Go try it for a month. See what happens when you use your own money and measure your spending month to month and tell me you didn't spend less and were more conscious.
So is it that the debit card, people see those hits in the account and it just goes, oh, I'm spending a lot more, whereas the credit card, it just kind of gets drawn out as this lump sum. So there's not the constant reminder, hey, you bought this, you bought this, you bought this.
Absolutely. I mean, it's all psychological. There was a study done, and I talk about this in the book, an fMRI study done by MIT, and they measured the brain when using a credit card, when using other people's money. And what it does, it pushes on the accelerator of spending while releasing the brakes at the same time.
Yeah.
And you can't do that with your own money. There's something in your brain that goes, I know this is mine. I know it's finite. I know I shouldn't be doing this. Versus, let me use someone else's money and pay it back later. Yeah, I'll figure that out. That's a problem for future me. And so I don't think there's a world where you could say you spend exactly the same as you would if you used your own money. And so that's my challenge to everybody. It's the challenge in the book that I put out there, the 30-day credit card challenge, to go put the credit card in a block of ice and see how you feel after 30 days. See how much less you spend. And I talk about all the different, they go, well, it's fraud protection and all this stuff. I go, listen, man, there's 19 ways you can stay safe online using a debit card. I've been doing it for 13 years. Yeah. Haven't been hacked. There was maybe one fraudulent charge in all those 13 years. It was quickly reversed. It's a nothing burger compared to the $1.3 trillion of credit card debt America's in.
That's an insane number. What's the average per person?
Average per person, last time I checked, was around $6,500 in credit card debt.
Wow.
And that's a, average APR of 22%, which means you're paying a handsome sum just to keep that balance around to the tune of a couple $1,000 a year that you're giving to the credit card company while saying, well, I get the rewards and miles and points, so it's worth it for me.
Yeah.
So that's the toughest one for me, and it's the hardest on the Ramsey show to get out of because the APR is so high and they want a shortcut out. And I go, listen, these companies know it's unsecured debt. They'll charge you 22% without thinking about it after they promised you 0% for the first 12 months. Yeah. And all of a sudden that interest hits and it's unbearable.
What's your take on buy now, pay later?
Oof. I think buy now, pay later is the credit cards, but for Gen Z. Because Gen Z goes, hey, I don't know about this credit card stuff. I saw my parents and siblings handle that. Don't like that. But buy now, pay later, it's 0% interest. Well, I'll pay it off in the next 4 payments, no matter what. And what happens is they add it to their tab. So at the end of the month, you go, well, I'll just keep adding more stuff to that. Mm-hmm. And by the way, it's usually not your actual bills that you need to pay. It's the frivolous stuff. It's entertainment. It's eating out. It's clothing. It's electronics. It's tech. And so what happens is people get stuck in these cycles where they go, I can't pay $2,000 this month in payments on all the stuff that I acquired. And again, it causes you to overspend, and the websites know it. Klarna brags to retailers that customers they'll see their carts increase by 40% if they add the Klarna button underneath the add to cart.
Holy crap.
Makes sense. Instead of $100 now, I can pay $25 now. Well, let me go ahead and add more stuff to the cart then, now that the bill just got lowered artificially.
Right.
And so I think it's an epidemic. These companies are making billions and billions of dollars. They're growing exponentially because they found a loophole to the people who are anti-debt, and they see these micro installment loans as a better form of payment.
Yeah. All right. Someone's listening to this. They're in debt. They've got their $6,500 on the credit card. Where can they find you and where should they start?
Well, if you're a reader or an audiobook listener, my book, Breaking Free from Broke, was my best shot at convincing anybody to break free from the debt system and giving them hope that it's possible for them. Of course, we have the Ramsey Show. I've got my own YouTube channel, which is a lot more entertainment, a lot more snark, a lot more in-depth. No call-ins, just all me on the street, in the studio.
It's awesome.
Covering trending topics that are relevant. So those are the best places to find me. And of course, the Ramsey Show, if you want to call in, if you got listeners that have their own questions, and you can always DM me on Instagram. If I can answer, I'm always happy to, at George Kamel with a K. And I look forward to helping as many people I can, especially your audience who I think are ready for change. They're not scared of hard things. And that to me is the difference maker. If you're going to be willing to get out of debt, if you're going to be willing to build wealth, it's going to take doing something that is unsexy, behind the scenes, that is not a flex. It's just good for you.
Final question. Costco is built to add value instead of extract it. How is Costco a metaphor for living a good, free life?
Oh, man. I think Costco is perfect because life is Costco. Life is chaos. It's ugly lighting, warehouse shelving on pallets. That's the day-to-day of our life. Don't be fooled when you walk into the fancy grocery store going, this is the reality I want to escape to. No, Costco is, that's where the rubber meets the road. And I love that Costco is, it really is, you can make terrible decisions at Costco, or you can be the cleanest, healthiest person at Costco. And so again, it's a reflection of the person you want to become. Every purchase you make is a vote for the person you want to become and the identity you want to have. And I think Costco is a great representation of that. You can eat the 150 hot dog and die an early death, or you can get the Kirkland protein shakes and live to be 100 like Michael Easter. The choice is yours.
That is the greatest answer that maybe has ever happened to a question on 2%, and I thank you for that. And thanks for coming on the show, man. It was fantastic to chat.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate you.
All right, let's wrap things up. We heard from George about how Costco is on par with democracy as one of the greatest things in America. Now, a couple years ago, I actually wrote an entire post on my Substack, 2%, about how Costco is the ultimate health hack. That post has the foods you should buy and how to put them all together in a meal. You can find it at twopct.com/Costco. So that is your action plan for when you walk into Costco so you don't get captured by all the other amazing things around and save some money in the process. Thank you for checking out the show. New episodes are dropping in your feed twice a week, so please keep an eye out for more. We are, of course, always open to your questions for our Ask Michael Anything section. Send them to media@twopct.com or drop them in the comments if you want to send us a voice memo or a video. We would absolutely love that. We'll try and answer as many questions as we possibly can. Do not forget to hit subscribe. And of course, have fun, don't die, eat sardines, and get them from Costco.